you are not responsible for other people's actions, but you are responsible for making sure that project is moving forward in the best way that you know how. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If we haven't met yet, my name is Kayla, and this is where we talk all about project management, particularly in lean teams and startup organizations. So if this is something you're interested in, I would love to invite you to subscribe. And I also want to please ask you to let me know what it is you would like to hear about, because I want to make sure I'm talking about things that are interesting and relevant to you. Okay, on to today's topic. Today we are going to be talking about stakeholders, everyone's favorite project management subject. And in particular, I want to talk about some tips to use when you are working with a stakeholder that is unresponsive. Maybe they're not responding at all, or maybe they're not responding in a timely manner. I want to give you some tips for how to manage this situation. This is no doubt a situation that many of you have already encountered, and if you haven't, you will in your project management careers. So let's talk for a minute about what a stakeholder actually is. And a stakeholder is simply an individual who has any sort of interest in the project. It could be someone who is going to be very integral in providing feedback in specific areas or on a specific thing, or someone that's providing information for you to move forward. And depending on the type of project that it is, the stakeholder could be an external client. It could be someone internally that you're working with. If you're working on an internal project, it could be someone on a different team, it could be, a boss or a higher up person. It could be someone outside of your organization altogether, maybe at a vendor partner or someone like that. Like I say, it's going to depend on the type of project that you're working on, but there is no doubt that you will have a stakeholder on your project, even if it is just you. And one of the situations that comes up in stakeholder management. Yes, stakeholder management is an actual thing. Like it's a whole area in project management, and you could go out and find all kinds of information about stakeholder management. How do we do this? But one of the situations that will more than likely come up as you are a project manager is you'll have stakeholders who take a long time getting back to you. Maybe they don't respond to your emails. Maybe they don't respond to your phone calls. Maybe they just sort of blow you off. Maybe they ignore you altogether. This happens. And let me tell you, if this is a situation that happens repeatedly to you as a project manager in whatever environment you're working in, that's a big red flag. Like that is a sign of a deeper problem that needs to be addressed with your management. But if this is a one-off situation, like I say, you're going to have this happen where you're not getting responses from your stakeholders. And I want to give you a few tips for how to deal with this and how to get some movement on those projects and keep them moving so you can continue to make sure things are getting done. Because that is your big responsibility in this project, to make sure that things are moving forward and you're getting things done. I also want to point out that your stakeholders generally want to help you. They want to see this project succeed. And usually the reason why we have stakeholders who take a long time to get back to us or aren't responding in a timely way or just flat out ignore us is not because of something personal about us or even the project. It's simply because they are very, very busy and they're trying to find time to fit all of this stuff in. In addition to their responsibility with the project, they have a whole other job that they're trying to do. Usually your stakeholders aren't working on this project full time. It's something that they are doing when they have time. So please remember that your stakeholders do want to help you. And I don't want this to come across as like stakeholders are bad, they're all annoying. That is not true. That is not true at all. We do have some difficult ones from time to time, but in most cases our stakeholders want to help us. They are there to help us. They are just finding it difficult to find the time. So remember that. Don't internalize it. Don't take it as like something personal against you that the stakeholder isn't getting back to you because of you or because they don't like what you're doing or what you're saying. It's not personal. It just has to do with the simple fact of time. So my first tip is if you're just kind of going down this road and you notice that maybe you have a stakeholder who isn't going to be very responsive, the first thing that I would do is make sure that you are communicating clearly to your stakeholder what you need from them, why you need it, and when you need this delivered to you. Those are the 3 pieces of information that you need to be communicating extremely clearly to your stakeholder. And you need to be communicating with your stakeholder in the method that is best for them. So it could be email, it could be in a meeting, it could be in a phone call. You need to have figured this out earlier, hopefully earlier in your project as you're working on your communication plan with all of the people that will be involved in the project. So if you know that this person hardly ever checks their email, or they get really behind on their email and they've already told you that please don't send me an email, it will just get lost. If you're sending them an email and asking them for their feedback or whatever it is that you need from them, be advised that they will probably not respond to you in a timely manner. Perhaps it is more efficient to call this person or schedule a meeting, whatever they have identified as that best way to get a hold of them. But once you do get a hold of them, you need to let them know very clearly what it is you need from them, why you need it, why it's important to the project, how it's going to impact that overall project. Make sure that why is really clear. It may seem obvious, right? But please understand that you see the project from a different perspective than your stakeholders do. So sometimes you do have to be really clear on that why and let them know when you need it. You might also want to attach a why along with that as well. Make a deadline for them. So make that really clear. Now, if you've already done this, and you've already done this in a way where you know they've seen it and they're just kind of blowing you off, but this is really important for the project. The project can't move forward until you get to that point. Maybe you're already running behind on deadlines. Maybe you're already sort of stressing out, or your boss is like, what is happening? Why are we not moving this project along? If you have not already looped your manager into the situation that you're dealing with, you need to do that now. And the reason you need to do that now is not to tattletale on the stakeholder. That's not what this is about, but it is your job as the project manager to take responsibility and make sure that this project is moving forward in the best way that you know possible. Putting forth your best foot, right, to make sure this thing is progressing along. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to take internal responsibility for a stakeholder's decision to not participate in the project. That's not something that you need to internalize and take responsibility for. You are not responsible for other people's actions, but you are responsible for making sure that project is moving forward in the best way that you know how. And sometimes that means looping in your manager to let them know, like, hey, I've reached out this many times, this is how I've done it, this is what I've said, and I haven't gotten responses, or the responses have been this. Your manager needs to know this so they can understand what you have done to move the project forward. And at some point, this is gonna be escalated beyond you. And this is why it's really important to make sure this communication is happening. Now, it also might be useful if you haven't already pulled this trick out of your bag. If you are using email, you also might want to start copying your manager or the project sponsor. If this is like the second, third, fourth time that you have reached out to the stakeholder and they are not responding, you might want to start copying appropriate people on the email. And this is a strategy that you will want to use very wisely, okay? I don't ever recommend copying people, like copying a bunch of people just to copy them. And I don't recommend copying people as like a passive-aggressive strategy, but I do recommend sometimes an appropriate copying of the right person on the right email can really do wonders in terms of moving things along. So that may also be something that you want to think about doing. Now, as you are communicating what you need from them, why you need it, and when you need it, something else you can offer, especially if you're feeling very generous, something else you can offer is to help the stakeholder put this information together, or help make it easier for the stakeholder. You want it to be as easy as possible for the stakeholder to get back to you, especially if it's a bigger ask that you need from them. Sometimes giving them that little bit of help will nudge them along. Like, hey, I know this is a really big ask, so here's what I can do. Like, here's how I can help you put this together. Could we have it done by Friday? If I'm able to do this part, could we have the rest of it by Friday? Offering that help will often nudge things along. Now, if you've pulled all the tricks out of the bag, if you've communicated clearly in the right method, looped in your manager, followed up appropriately, and you're still at a standstill, this is a problem, all right? And at this point, I would recommend this thing be escalated because it's really out of your control as the project managers. The person that is next in line to you, it should really be responsible. Depending on how your team operates, maybe with these situations, it gets escalated to like a higher person, to a higher manager, a director type of a person. Maybe in these situations, if you're a really lean team, the team gets together and sort of brainstorms about the next steps and a strategy to move forward. But at some point, this goes away from just being something that you're responsible for to being something that the project team is responsible for. So remember that if you have a stakeholder that is unresponsive and not getting back to you, it's not like the end of the project. It's not like the project is dead. You have a team behind you, and it's moments like this where that team comes in and helps you and supports you and figures out the best next steps for moving forward. All right, so I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions about how to manage tricky projects, or maybe you're trying to figure out how to navigate your wear all the hats startup position, if this is you and you need some extra help, drop me a note, go onto my website, book a 15-minute consult, and I would be happy to chat with you. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye.